Hello, good evening, and welcome to Ion Port. It is proudly brought to you by GOIL Company Limited, Ghana Revenue Authority, also Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Ghana Community Network Services, West Blue Consulting. All these organizations bring you this proud program where they expect you to interact with the ports and the entire port community, get to know whatever is happening within the port space. It also allows you to send in comments and get responses as far as doing business around the port is concerned. Proud media partners for this program is the Business and Financial Times, as well as the graphic business, the Ghana Web, all of them. If you get a copy of the Tuesday edition of the graphic business, you should be reading a lot about the maritime industry. Also, Thursday edition of the Business and Financial Times, you should read a lot more on the maritime and transport industry. Folks, this week we're going to focus on the budget 2020 that was read by the finance minister. We're going to take a look at what he meant by widening the tax base, which is the core focus of the budget, as well as take a look at the bit of compliance which he emphasized on. What does he mean? So we are going to travel behind the numbers that he called out there, because this is a pure industry focused kind of program. We want to travel behind the numbers he announced on that day, and that's what we're going to do today. We have the right person to help us interrogate that particular subject pretty shortly. In the meantime, quite a number of things are happening within the maritime space. Several news and activities. The Minister of Transport, for instance, this week engaged the media, members of the media, as well as about 3 agencies engaging members of the media. I'll bring you that story. Also, the Ship Owners and Agents Association of Ghana, they've held their end of year get together, connecting with one another within the industry, and all the agencies there. Will bring you that story as well. And the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority Security has rescued some fisher folk. We'll find out how all of that happened. Take a listen.
The Ministry of Transport has organized an engagement between some of its agencies and the media. The agencies, which included the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Ghana Shippers Authority, and the Ghana Maritime Authority, presented their overview of the year 2019 and targets for the year 2020 to the media. The Minister of Transport, Kweku Ofori-Siama, seized the opportunity to praise Ion Port, an innovative program initiated by GPHA with focus on the port, shipping, and maritime industry, for opening the eyes of the general public and government to many happenings within such crucial industry through educative discourse, and called it an exemplary that needs to be expanded across all ministries, departments, and agencies. He entreated agencies under the ministry that such a platform exists for all of them to get interactive with the general public. The Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Michael Luguje, revealed that by the end of 2020 or early 2021, works will begin on the construction of the Port of Kita. He said the MPS Terminal 3 will make transshipment trade very attractive to Ghana.
All containers coming into Sierra Leone, Liberia, Gambia, Togo, and the rest. The expectation is that from east, from Asia, the vessels will carry all of them to terminal. And then smaller vessels will come and distribute to the other ports. That is why the Terminal 3 has a depth capacity of 60 meters. And the 60 meters can receive container vessels that carry up to 12 to 16,000 boxes.
He said, whilst Port of Tema is being promoted as the container hub for the West African sub-region, the Port of Takoradi, on the other hand, is being positioned as the oil services hub of the sub-region. Michael Luguje also gave some highlights of some developmental projects in both Tema and Takoradi ports.
There are developments in Takoradi port. Major expansion work to make sure we position Takoradi as the oil services hub. That terminal, currently we are in engagement with the private sector for a PPP arrangement to help us develop the oil services hub in Takoradi. The oil jetty has also, a new oil jetty is being built. It's about 90% complete. It will also be managed under a PPP arrangement. There's a bulk jetty that has also been built. This is waiting to be equipped with conveyor belts, and that will help us to do better with handling all the bulk vessels that come.
He encouraged the media to take advantage of the open door policy of the Port Authority to have access to all information to better inform the general public.
I'm looking forward to all the support we can get from our sister agencies and also from civil society and the media, so that at any given time, if you want to understand anything that the port is doing, call on us. We'll give you all the facts that you need to help you be able to educate our masses appropriately.
The Deputy Director of Environment and Safety Standards at the Ghana Maritime Authority, Captain Inusa Abdul Nasser, said his outfit is not shirking its responsibility in ensuring safety navigation.
The safety of navigation is paramount to the operations of shipping in our maritime domain. If the ship is not able to reach the port, then there will be no business in the port.
He highlighted some functions of the Ghana Maritime Authority.
So long as we have ships operating in our maritime domain, certainly there will be casualties, there will be accidents. So the Ghana Maritime Authority has a search and rescue center, and we operate this. We also plan, monitor, and evaluate the training programs of seafarers.
The head of freight and logistics at the Ghana Shippers Authority, Fred Asiedu-Date, lauded the paperless port initiative, which he said has contributed significantly to the reduction in demurrage charges to shipping lines.
Together with the shipping lines and the freight forwarders, we're going to all the regions and telling the people, no, you must do something about it. Start off your cargo clearance even before the vessel arrives. And thankfully, that began to work. I must also say that the introduction of the paperless system has contributed significantly, and the results that we saw in 2017 was that it began to look south.
He said the Shippers Authority is committed to representing the interest of shippers in the country in order to ensure that they get the best of service from service providers.
There are many instances where the shipper would come to you at the Ghana Shippers Authority and say, oh, well, I brought these goods, I gave it to an agent to clear for me, and then what I realized is that this is the charge he's asking me to pay. Meanwhile, the last transaction of the same container with the same goods, I didn't pay that much. What is the problem? And so we would have a dedicated shipper services office. We have officers who would go in and investigate, and a lot of times you would find out that the shipper or the service provider may have, overcharged the shipper.
The Deputy Minister of Transport, Daniel Nikwate Titus Glover, said his ministry, in collaboration with the Ghana Maritime Authority, is tackling illegal fishing in Ghanaian waters.
This unregulated illegal fishing, it's something that the GMA and the ministry are seriously tackling it. And anybody that will fight our law will deal with them.
He urged importers of cars to start their clearance processes early in order not to get their cars confiscated by the state.
When you have imported a car, you need to protect yourself, organize yourself to get the funding that immediately you bring it down. You might have even checked with your capacity, the engine capacity and all that, and how much duty you are going to pay on it. So immediately your car comes down, you just walk in, you pay, off you go. But some of the people don't make those checks.
The Ship Owners and Agents Association of Ghana has held its end-of-year cocktail and networking event to celebrate what it deems as a challenging but successful year in the shipping industry. The occasion was attended by a myriad of stakeholder representatives of the shipping industry, including the various shipping lines, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Meridian Port Services, the Ghana Shippers Authority, the Shippers Council of the Sahelian countries, the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, the International Chamber of Commerce, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Trade and Industry, among others. Speaking at the event, the Vice President of the Ship Owners and Agents Association of Ghana, Adam Imoro Ayana, assured the Ghana shipping community that shipping lines will continue to create opportunities for global commerce and encourage frequent dialogue as a remedy to the challenges encountered in the business.
We will continue to carry the nation and we will continue to create opportunities for commerce globally and we'll continue to support Ghana. And like we always say, and I personally say, shipping is a business of conscience. And all the people sitting here, all the shipping lines you see here, have a high sense of conscience in doing business.
GPHA, represented by the board chairman Peter McMenu and the director of ports Sandra Opoku, assured the shipping industry of maintaining the enabling environment for shipping lines and their customers to do business.
Ghana's ports and economy will continue to grow such that businesses and all vessels and cargoes will come for you and us to grow our various businesses.
We are ready for business, and I'll be expecting more volumes. And for those who are expecting discounts, when I get the volumes, we'll give you the discount that you want.
The stakeholders encouraged and advised themselves ahead of the year 2020.
So I will give this one as your, let's call it, objective for next year. Let us hope for more news about connecting something for the benefit of its people.
We will want to invite every single person in here for the national launch of Incoterms 2020.
10 fishermen have been rescued by the Port Sea Patrol team in the early hours of Thursday, 14th November 2019.
From a vessel by name MTETC Nefertari, which was at Anchorage, that some fisher folk who had gone on a fishing expedition had encountered a windstorm. Their boat had capsized and they fallen into the sea, so they needed the team to attend to them.
The boat of the fishermen, christened Matthew 77, capsized following a windstorm at Anchorage, which led to the seizure of the outboard motor of the fishing boat. In attempts to refuel the boat, the strong winds turned them over, along with the fuel and the 30 crates of fish they had captured during their expedition.
They must also take account of the weather and the climatic condition around which they operate. So when they see that the sea is turbulent, and when they see that the wind is not so friendly, they must wait, in as much as they would want to eat.
The Deputy Port Security Manager, Kingsley Darko, reported that no fatalities were recorded and cautioned the fishing community to be watchful of the current weather conditions.
The fisher folk did not have a life jacket, which they could have used when they encountered that storm. So the appeal or the advice we would want to send to our fishing community, who are also our major stakeholders as far as the port enclave is concerned, is that when they embark on some of these things, they must or ensure that they take in all the safety precautions.
He also encouraged the use of life jackets by all fisherfolk who embark on fishing expeditions.
So those were some of the activities around the port industry. We're going to talk about the budget, go behind the facts and go behind the figures with facts. And I am pleased to announce to you that I have been joined in the studio by Mr. Isaac CRENTSIL, the technical advisor to the minister as well as the Ministry of Finance or the government, and the former Commissioner of Customs. He always says that I'm the only one who hijacks him around here. Commissioner, good to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So when we return from the break, facts behind the figures of the budget 2020.
Here's innovation from GOIL that takes you further. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and GOIL has innovated to stay ahead. Expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. GOIL. Good energy.
Dear valued client, the Ghana Trade Hub mobile app is now live
to make it easy to track your consignment and know the estimated duty payable for both general goods and used vehicles. We are pleased to inform you that the Ghana Trade Hub mobile app is available for download on Google Play Store for Android users and the App Store for Apple users. This is the best opportunity for all importers and exporters to know the duty payable on every good under transaction. You can reach the team for inquiries and support by calling +233 242 435 663. Send an email to support@ghanastradinghub.com. To remain updated, kindly follow progress on the following platforms: www.facebook.com/Ghana Trade Hub, www.twitter.com/Ghana Trade Hub, and ghlinkedin.com/in/Ghana Trade Hub. Importers and exporters can download the official Ghana Single Window mobile app, which allows you to track your consignment conveniently and also allows you to obtain your estimated duty for general goods and used vehicles. Please spread the message to everyone importing or exporting. The Ghana Trading Hub mobile app is now live. Download and never be cheated. This is powered by the Smart Ports project under the auspices of the Government of Ghana and the Ghana Revenue Authority. Smart Port, improving Ghana's ease of doing business.
Ghana ye yenya ya sase o my kesi a ye kan ye hobom ye adwumaden ye be ye kese pa ye to a ye tuatua ne da no ene ne ye de sisi suku adan ne ya sabia ade bi yi akwan am ye nya asetena pa ene ne papi eto bi te say withholding tax, income tax, excise tax stamp ene afoforo pi wo ho a e bia na wo mu sem bi safa de wo se wutua nkasa ho enu nti ne ye wo ho ma wo ne se ye beboa wo eto aketua bia boa mesra wo boa ne empagya
So let's go and listen to the Finance Minister who read the budget at the floor of Parliament.
The Finance Minister of the country, Ken Ofori-Atta, has indicated that the government has moved the economic policy of the country away from one focused on taxation to one focused on production and outlined directives towards such objective.
I would like to note that import duties were reduced by 50% from April 2019. The 1% special import levy was abolished. Excise duty on petroleum was abolished. Abolish import duty on importation of spare parts.
According to the Finance Minister, the reduction and abolition of taxes, including the 50% reduction in import duty, has saved taxpayers a total of 4.1 billion Ghana cedis over the last 3 years.
The reduction and abolition of taxes, including the 50% reduction in import duty, has saved taxpayers a total of 4.1 billion over the last 3 years, and this money in their pockets.
He assured that measures would be undertaken to boost domestic revenue, and the Ghana Revenue Authority would play an instrumental role in this objective.
Government should continue to provide the necessary support to the Ghana Revenue Authority in their ongoing reforms for 2020, the medium term, to optimize revenue collection. The full-year yield from the 2019 media revenue measures are expected to be robust in 2020 to complement tax compliance.
The Minister of Finance also revealed that his outfit is leveraging technology to improve transparency and accountability in administrative systems, as well as bring ease to doing business in the country.
We have set a digitalization agenda to improve the efficiency of many government agencies. These initiatives will potential long-term gains by leveraging technology to improve transparency and accountability.
Ken Ofori-Atta also said efforts being undertaken to position Ghana's ports as a regional logistics hub, coupled with major road networks in the country, is a demonstration of government's long-term commitment to infrastructural development.
Mr. Speaker, infrastructure development is a long-term commitment which requires long-term finance. We will actively pursue blended financing arrangements, leveraging sources from various development partners, philanthropy, private sector actors to finance mega infrastructure projects. Seaport and airports to position Ghana as a regional logistics.
Okay, so welcome back from that budget reading from Parliament. So welcome back from Parliament. Now in the studio, my guest is Mr. Isaac CRENTSIL. He's a technical advisor to this government and also to the President, to the Finance Minister, to the Finance Ministry. And he's a former Commissioner of Customs as well. Mr. CRENTSIL, pleasure to have you in the studio once more. You are looking fresh.
Thank you very much.
It's been a long time.
Yes, it is.
It's been a long time.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I'm sure that your people have missed you, so they're happy to see you on TV.
Well, I'm always around.
Now, let's get serious to the budget. When you listen to the budget, those of us listen from afar. The first thing you hear from the Finance Minister, for instance, that Mr. Speaker, we promise to move the economic policy away from one that is focused on taxation to one that is focused on production. What does he mean by that?
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity this evening. But before I move on, I want to build on a certain premises.
Please go
that
ahead.
We pay taxes for a civilized society.
Okay.
So it means if you want good rules, one good infrastructure, hospitals, etc., then every citizen must pay his or her taxes. And then the state must also ensure that the citizens follow that duty and, of course, behave in a compliance way. So this is the premise I want to make, that taxes are to ensure that we have a civilized society where everything is in order, law and order are working, the roads are in shape, hospitals are there, and that's why we collect taxes.
Okay.
So that is the premises I want to build. Then I move on to talk about why Honorable Minister said we are moving from taxation to production. Because taxes are based on income. And therefore, if we are not generating income, we cannot tax. And that's why government has put in so many flagship programs, so many strategies to ensure that the productive activities of the state are move on, so that government, or for that matter, Ghana Revenue Authority will be able to collect revenue or taxes for that matter. Okay. And that's why they are moving from taxation. Because if you can't tax when there's nothing there, but you can only tax when people are productive, working.
But are we productive as a people? Are we producing that much that government can depend on?
That's why so many strategies have been put in place. Even when it comes into looking at even the 50% benchmark reduction of goods and services, imports. I mean, so many such activities have been put in place. All these point to the situation where the manufacturers will be able to work hard and then generate more revenue so that the government can tax them.
Okay. But the Finance Minister also mentioned that the underperformance of tax revenue mainly stems from shortfalls in international trade taxes, and that includes monies that are coming from the area where we operate, the ports, include import duties, include levies here and there. How does that lead to the shortfalls of tax revenue? Yeah,
it's very, very true. We know, like he said, Honorable said in the budget statement, the import volumes were reduced. In fact, import volumes reduced because there was this anticipation that once we look at the reduction in the benchmark values, more imports will come, but we couldn't. So, and therefore, a lot of imports volumes went down. Again, a lot of the goods were admitted below the 10% band. And also, of course, also reduce the revenue. And then, of course, we have these tax exemptions. All these factors ensure that taxes from international trade on goods and services were very low.
But you mentioned a very interesting one, the 30% reduction in HDVs of cars, the 50% reduction in the benchmark values of general goods. Government announced it. A lot of people were wondering, can government take it? Won't this definitely reduce the revenues that government is expecting? Government says, no, we are fine. We feel that this was, in spite of whatever reduction we have made, we'll still make the revenues, because the expectation is that, okay, people will automatically import and then we can make money. And you are telling us that that expectation was quashed because you couldn't meet target, you couldn't make a lot more revenue because of that particular policy?
Not that way. Not that at all. The policy, the whole essence of that policy was to make our port efficient.
Okay.
For that was the essence. Okay. Not that government was just happy to reduce cost. Yeah. But to ensure that our port, vis-a-vis other ports within the West Africa, was at a lower
cost of doing business.
And that was one of the main reasons why then you have to look at the benchmark, the values, because it was very high compared to our neighboring ports that we're working to. And all other activities were pushing into that post and affecting our revenue. And so the government brought in this idea. Well, for now, we are in the 9th month of the implementation of this policy. Yeah. I mean, people will be understanding the issue. Maybe you have to look at the reason why we're giving you this opportunity, but you are not taking advantage of. So these are the things maybe going forward. You have to understand the behavior of our importers. Why imports have been, values have been reduced, but they are not bringing in more volumes. But so these are the things going forward. You have to do research. You have to study it and find out why is the reason why.
But was there an empirical economic research finding that was based upon to, in the first place, initiate this policy? Did government have some economic policy that says that automatically if I reduce the duties of general goods by 50% or the HDVs of cars by 30%, automatically people will suddenly be importing a lot more? Was there empirical evidence upon which government was advised to take this particular move?
A lot of ingredients went into this policy. But this policy was not just to allow people to bring, once government reduce these benchmarks values, a lot of imports will come. No. The whole idea was to bring the cost of doing business within our port at a low, so that at least our neighboring will have a competitive advantage over our neighboring country. In fact, that was the main reason. Focus. But the additional incentive was to ensure that at least values are come down, people will bring in more volumes.
But so then did you also factor the fact that some of the negative, possible negative consequence would then be that government will lose revenue?
Well, we knew that, but we thought that it will be by the first 3 or 4 months that we will experience
and then we will shoot up again.
Then we shoot up again. That's why I still have confidence that going forward 2020, things will change. I'm very, very positive. Because a lot of things were put into place. A lot of people sat down and thought about this whole issues. That's why it's better we will have to also go back to the drawing board and find out why we are giving people this opportunity, but they are not taking advantage.
Have you done that? Have you gone back with 9 months?
No. That's what I said. Going forward, because a lot of all these things talks about these changes of the child structure that we are talking about within the budget that Honorable talk about. So all these things, you have to find out why there's this opportunity, but people are not taking advantage. It's a study we have to find out from.
Yeah. But the 30%, is it cutting across all vehicles, for instance?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it's for all vehicles.
All vehicles are supposed to enjoy that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is it being implemented that way?
Well, I've left the scene, so I don't know much about.
Okay.
Yes, no, but but I know that it was for all vehicles.
Okay. I mean, it started implementation before you left the scene.
Yes, for 1 month before I left, and it was for all vehicles.
Okay, because
I don't know, maybe other mechanism have come in the implementation of the process.
Okay, because I got a text message from somebody who said that vehicles under 2.0 cc, that's cubic capacity, was not supposed to enjoy, and those only after 2 points. This was a misconception the person had. Is that the case? That vehicles above 2 points?
If you go about His Excellency's statement in April 2019, he said 30% ADV on
across all vehicles.
Yes. So as at now, I don't know whether new mechanism have come in the implementation of the process, but it's long time.
You don't think the lack of clarity in some of these policies and the information availability to the general public can also be the reasons why some of these positive effects of some of these sound policies are not felt in the general public?
But I agree with you. That's why even in the budget, Honorable Minister is talking about customer orientation, and then even bringing out a great version of the tax laws and all our policies, so that at least there will be a sufficient tax education within the tax populace for them to understand and appreciate. All that we are trying to do is to have trust. We are saying that the citizens who are paying the taxes must have trust in the tax administration. And this is the focus, synergistic. We are trying to ensure that we all have one common purpose, so that we pay taxes to develop this country. It's not an antagonistic where we have to force you. Unless you are very difficult, then we have to force you to comply by way of deterrent and then sanctions. But going forward, we are trying to bring synergistic means of where we all come together, because at least we want to ensure that this country is developed by way of tax.
So there will be synergy within collection and mobilization of
going forward,
revenue going forward.
But we have the service and client
relationship.
Yes.
The other thing on that one is that a lot of people have a feeling that when you put out policies, particularly coming from your outfit, the Ministry of Finance and the revenue mobilization outfits, you always come up with something. It's so sudden, people don't get it, and it's out there and it's being implemented. Definitely you would not get the effect from that, would you?
Yeah, that's why if you look at the preparation of this 2020 budget, a lot of participation took place. A lot of identifiable groups were engaged in the preparation of this 2020 budget. So many, yes. So it's a budget that I feel that people even understood it before even it was read to the general public. Yes, because there were a lot of
broad consultation, even for the folks within the port community.
Yes, there was a broad consultation.
The freight forwarders.
Yes, they are not only this thing. We have the AGI, the distributors, the freight base. So banks, all sorts of institutions were engaged one way or the other to ensure that we have a very good
and they made inputs in this.
Yes, of course. And it is when people accept the budget, then it becomes very easy to implement, because then they all ensure that, look, this is going to help us to develop the nation going forward.
So you look at this budget, the 2020 budget, what's the core focus?
See, the core focus is to bring in efficiency, and then of course broad basing, where we move away from taxes but onto what? Production, where we ensure that the tax net is widened, there's efficiency by way of technology, by way of reforms, and then service to the people. These are the focus of the 2020 budget. Okay. Broad basing, tax widening, ensure that people are compliant, ensure that the service client relationship are also of utmost importance.
Okay.
But so not on just taxing. No.
Okay.
But ensure that people are doing productive activities, and then government will be able to get money from it.
Okay. So I gather widen the tax net. I gather compliance in payment of taxes. I gather production on the part of state to increase. Now the third part, which is production, often when I hear that, I hope and pray to think that you know that that is quite a long-term matter, or mid-term kind of. You are hoping that people will start producing within the country. But it's not as if we have started producing. It's already going on. We are hoping that activities like 1D, 1F and co will come in, and indeed you would have a lot more factories and all of that. These are long-term things that you are hoping they will happen. Immediately though, you are looking at widening the tax net. You are looking at the compliance. So I'm hoping that a lot of attention is going to be based on widening the tax net and compliance. What does government mean by widening the tax net?
Well, if you look at the 2020 budget, there were so many measures that government have put in place to ensure that the tax net is widened. Even when you look at government looking at the regulations, reviewing the existing regulations, and then even bringing in new regulations to ensure that at least government will be able to have something, review the e-service.
Okay.
Yeah, it's also one area that government is focusing. That is the online services, online sales, and all those things.
Government wants to be able to tax the
so
online services.
They are looking at the laws so that we're able to do an effective taxation in the e-service. Then government is also looking at the compliant at this downstream petroleum, where a lot of compliance measures have been put in place, and then we sanction that if the director or the company misbehave, they will be sanctioned. All these things have been put in place, and then also a lot of reforms have also been brought up in terms of the tax administration, where they are going to look at the GRA laws. All these things will ensure that there will be efficiency. Then, of course, technology will also be used. Then we talk about digitization in terms of identifying taxpayers, in terms of identifying work. Even government open up the payment platform, digitized payment platform, where people can anywhere can pay their taxes. All these things are a way of widening the tax net to ensure that at least people pay taxes in their comfort.
Okay, so about 3 of them that you mentioned, the online, the downstream oil, and all of that, I see them more close to the formal sector, if I'm not wrong. Am I right? Most of these are to the formal sector. But the formal sector, Commissioner, you would agree that takes about, I mean, the percentage of the entire populace who pay tax from the formal sector should just be around 10%. What about the informal sector? What was the target for informal sector?
Well, this budget 2020 is going to address this issue of informal sector. You know, a lot have gone into digitization. This national ID card, issue of this taxpayer identification note, and then we have also recruited about 5,000 NABCO people to register all those informal. So a lot have been pushed into this informal system.
I see. Let me get that side again. You said we've registered some NABCO people to do
what? NABCO, no, we have about average about 5,000 NABCO people who are going about. In fact, they have started identifying and registering these informal taxpayers. And then also, you know, at least the national ID, international ID has been digitized. We have also digitized so many things that we'll be able to identify taxpayers to ensure that we get the necessary revenue from them. So it's something that this budget have addressed all these challenges.
Okay, so
by way of technology, digitization.
Okay, so the focus is that there are measures that have been put in place to ensure that everybody, the informal side,
yes,
in particular,
yes,
are also captured within the net.
Yeah, because that's why I begin by saying that it is for us to get a civilized society, everybody must pay tax. It's a duty of every citizen must pay, and this is the focus. That's what I'm talking about. This customer orientation that we talk about in the budget. We are now going to appeal to them. Tax education.
Yeah.
You're not going to appeal to them. You're also making sure that the tax processes, the tax complexity are so simplified by way of using technology.
Yeah.
So many ITAP have been introduced, so many things have been introduced to make sure that the tax system is so easy to do. That don't complain that I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Going forward, we are going to ensure that people understand what they are supposed to do, and when it comes to taxation.
But you agree, though, that this has not been the situation in the past, Commissioner?
That's why we are strengthening it. We are deepening it, that going forward 2020, all these things, because we need revenue to ensure that we achieve government flagship programs, etc., etc.
A lot of people feel that if you take even property tax alone, Commissioner, if government was to be serious all this while, that area alone, the amount of money they will rake in, you have no idea. I recall that about 4 or 5 years ago, no, it should be more than that, there was a district chief executive at Krowo, Lejokuku Krowo Municipal Assembly, who said that he got most of his monies to do the developments he was doing, building some schools and all of that there, from the estates the people who were living in the estate who were not paying property tax previously. Now I've lived in my property since 2012, thereabouts, so about 7 years. Nobody has ever approached me asking me for property tax. And I'm not alone. I'm sure that a lot of people who are living in places have never paid property tax. All of these things you've let loose, Commissioner. All this while, how do you think going forward and as immediate as possible, government will be able to start looking at these areas? That is where the money is.
Right, thank you. You know, property taxes mainly are from the local government level. And government saw that if they can put in much effort, efficiency. So there's something like a partnership with the local governments to correct. So now the government is doing this in collaboration with the local government. And attention is being paid into that spheres. We are aware. Like we said, people who are in their house are not paying any taxes on their properties. Now, what going forward, at least we are able to identify by way of this GPS, by way of this. That's why the focus now is more on technology. We are going to use technology to be able to identify. But now we are able to what is the housing address system. We are able to at least identify all houses.
Is it effective? Have
we
done that?
Yeah, within my community, all houses have been numbered. And therefore, it will be very easy to just, by the click of a computer, identify whether this number has paid anything with respect to this. So, all effort will be pushed into that direction. Because I always say that even if we focus more even on property tax, you can even get money than even looking at the taxes on international goods and services. So the focus is on, and they're going to use the digitize or the technology to drive this. We cannot use human effort. It's not possible. You have to use technology by way of addressing systems, by way of technology, by way of street naming. All these things have been done last year and now we are going to take advantage of it and ensure that we implement this laudable program.
But are you sure the system, all of that has been achieved, that the system is ready for this takeoff, as you say, if government is really looking for money in 2020? Because the reason I'm building this site for you is that the finance minister stated clearly that the general underperformance of tax revenue mainly stems from shortfalls in international trade taxes and on income and property taxes. The shortfall in international trade taxes, which consist of import duty and levies, external VAT and customs national health and get fund levies, resulted from lower import volumes, high admittance of imported goods into the zero-rated and or tax-exempt import brackets, and the lower tariff bands up to the 10% tariff levels. Now, if we have realized that shortfalls from international trade tax as well as income and property tax, if we are able to split that 50% shortfalls came from international trade, 50% came from property and income tax, and we have decided that we are not going to burden the port, the international trade tax, we should begin to see clear signals that says that we're going to take a lot of advantage of the property and income tax angle. But a lot of people are not seeing that clear signal.
See, man, there have been a new GRA. Now we have a new commissioner, a new board chairman, a new commissioner general. And all these things are a way of a reform to move on to a certain direction.
Okay.
And I believe that these directions will ensure that all these things that we're talking about will be addressed. Because now a new process is going to take place to ensure that all those that we have mentioned will be addressed. And that's we talk about the people, technology, and then the service. These are all things that GRA is going to address. Now we have to even look at the GRA law. It's almost 10 years that it came into existence. So these are some of the things that they are going to look at it and address some of these challenges that resulted in not us getting enough revenue for the development of the state.
The other sort of complaint or accusation or criticism to government is that it appears that government has been going to the riverside with a basket, that leaking basket, you know, those ones that we use the canes to weave. You go to the riverside and fetch water and then hope that when you get home you'll be able to get water to serve yourself. However, you forgot that you went to the riverside with those leaking baskets. they feel that there are too many leakages in the system, that whether you put in technology or you put whatever, or people are going out there numbering numbers, at the end of the day, when the money is mobilized, not all of that will get to government.
I agree with you in some ways that there are a lot of leakages within the revenue system. But these are things that the ministry have identified, and then a lot of measures have even been put in place within the 2020 budget.
Are you sure? Because that is my worry, and that was going to be my next question.
Yeah,
I didn't see much of that.
No, if you talk about, you're talking about sanctions. Sanctions.
Yeah.
And then we're also talking about the people. When you talk about people, we are looking at the tax officials, the tax administrators, and then, of course, the taxpayers. These are all the people we're talking about, that a lot of deterrents are going to be put in place. And then, of course, punitive measures are applied. But going forward, at least we must cultivate the idea to bring a trust into the tax system. That people should be able to trust the tax administrators, so that they will to work hard. Then it becomes an obligatory for you to pay your duty. I mean, duty payment is an obligatory. Well, we want to pay duty to develop the country. We shouldn't come and force you to pay duty. No. If you want to get a civilized society, then there's no need for the society or the state to force you to pay. Because now we are all calling for good roads, we are all calling for good hospitals, and it's by tax revenue that we use these things for. So why don't you pay for me, a tax administrator, to chase you before you pay? So these are sometimes we have to use the tax morals to address some of these things. Unless the people are recalcitrant, then deterrents and sanctions are applied. So we cannot talk plenty of sanctions into the budget. It becomes like a cop and a robber, antagonistic. No, a budget should not be so. Yeah. A budget should be something that should be friendly, synergistic. I mean, we all come together to develop the country. So if we didn't even find much of the sanctions, it's because the idea is that we are appealing to your morals to voluntarily go and pay your taxes.
No, but there should also be a mechanism where you cannot even avoid the payment of the tax, and that's what we see elsewhere. In the developed nations where we seek to emulate, you realize that the system, even though you are not being forced to go and pay, the system is such that you cannot go or circumvent around the payment of taxes, and that's what we're hoping to see. Now I see sanctions, and I ask myself, you can only sanction when you have found the person, when you have found people culpable, but how do we find people culpable? How do we even get to know that Sami living at that place hasn't even paid this, and he hasn't been paying for all this while? How do we know that the importer is paid, the amount the importer has been given to pay is exactly what will come to the state? Or sometimes importers are billed 3 times what eventually will end up with government, especially when you don't have even proper receipting systems that get to the importer. So I was hoping that mechanisms that put in place some of these things would rather be captured, rather than hoping that, oh, when we catch you, we'll sanction you.
No, I mean, I'm sure the budget talk about high-level activities, but when you go in, we drill it down. The details, I'm sure going forward, we are going to ensure that we have strong auditing techniques, monitoring of activities of the taxpayers. But like I said, these things do not augur well when you are pushing so much antagonists. I mean, you are forcing the taxpayer. I mean, some will request that they will not mind, but why don't ask your job and ensure that, look, this is what is due you, pay. But if you don't pay, auditors one day will come and find out, and then you pay heavy fines. These are all part of the sanctions. So for now, we are asking you that go and comply with the tax law. That's why a lot of compliance measures have been put in place in the budget. For now, then going forward, all the auditors will then go around to ensure that indeed you comply with the tax laws and spirit of the law.
Okay, so now back to the issue of compliance and ensuring that people comply. What are the technical measures that have been put in place? for the informal sector, because I'm still not convinced about that. For the formal sector, for the international trade side and all of that, that's why people are complaining that already you have too much pressure at the port. You are dropping everything. Oh, pay this there, because there it is easy to collect. The person has imported so and so. If they say pay this amount of duty, he has no choice. You can't abandon your goods. So definitely the pressure goes there. So it looks as if the few places where you know it's so convenient, government knows that it's so convenient to tax, that is where you are focusing plenty. People working in the government agencies, people working in the private sector, formal sector, yes, you are going to them. And these are few people, and you are burdening them with a lot of taxes. In widening this tax base, what level of compliance measures have you put in place for the macular markets, the one dealing in the spare parts, the one dealing electricity somewhere, so electrician somewhere, the mason man who just collects his kwacha and moves and feels that, no, I don't owe anybody anything?
Well, looking at the compliance tools, first you have to look at the knowledge of the taxation. Are the people who are paying the taxes aware? Do they understand why they are paying their taxes, or do you even know the tax laws? So going forward, we are going to ensure that tax knowledge are deepened, tax education are deepened. But it's very, very crucial that every tax administrator must ensure that at least the taxpayers are able to understand what they are about, so that they have confidence in them. So it's very, very important. Then we talk about the tax process and procedure. That is the tax complexity. We are also going to ensure that it's going to be simplified. Like the paperless project we did at the time. The process is simplified, so that at least the people will not have to suffer before they pay their taxes. They're also going to have these digital payment platforms. All these things are ways to ensure that people comply, because when the tax system is very difficult to assess or even pay,
people won't even dare.
People know. So these are some of the little things the tax officials must do, so that the people will be very happy. When we talk about taxation, trust is very, very important. The people must have confidence in you, in the tax administrators, so that they can run to them to share their concern. Then whatever they want them, they share it, then they pay. But if the people fear the tax of administrators, they will even come, and it will take time before you identify them. So always the strategy is that at least you must be able to talk to them, bring synergy between them, and then improve trust. So these are some of the things that we have to do. Then of course we have to also improve technology by way of digitization, and it's very, very crucial. So going forward, 2020 budget have addressed all these challenges.
It's the more reason why I asked about the sort of trust you have, you are beginning to build between the administrator, the tax administrator, and the people you want them to be compliant. Because I'm sure, Commissioner, you have heard this before, that people will say that, oh, I use the motorway almost every day. I pay 1 cedi almost every day, but the roads are broken. What even shows that the people who are collecting the toll take all the money to government. People will tell you that, you see these, the assembly folks, they come and write on buildings, produce permit, you go and pay your permit, the guy comes, collect the money, and sometimes the way the money is even collected and dropped into the pocket, you wonder whether this is going to government. All of these things have made people feel a bit, these things that I'm giving to this guy, is it going to the state? So is government getting enough from what the people are actually giving? Because the people feel that they give and they all don't end up with government. How do we build this trust back? Because people don't have it.
See, going forward, I'm sure the government has talked about improving the road networks going forward 2020. And these are the things that when the populace see that this initiative have started, then the taxpayers or the citizens has also a duty to pay, to support the government. Because government only use what you have paid to them to build the roads. So the government will take the initiative by way of building the roads. going forward 2020 from now to 2020. So when the government start these activities, then the tax payers must also ensure that they pay their taxes.
Should the government start it before the people pay?
Yes, because
then they won't pay. They will wait until you start doing some things before they pay.
Well, it's the duty that the state ensure that the citizens pay the duty.
That's the number.
And then also the state must also use the revenue or the resources to develop the country. So it's a two-way. I mean, thing that we have to ensure that you develop the country, and then and after all, a lot of these tax revenues have been used by way of this school feeding program. All these are by way of tax revenues, and therefore it's good that you pay to support the government and ensure that the nation is developed.
There's a column I would want you to touch on before I take a break, and I would begin to invite our viewers. You can join the conversation. The numbers are displayed on your screen. You can send your WhatsApp message if you have any message for Commissioner on taxes, the side of taxes in particular when it comes to doing business. And you may also call in at the time that we will announce for you to call in. It says, we will aggressively pursue blended financial arrangements, leveraging funds from various sources, including our development partners, philanthropists, and private sector actors to finance mega infrastructure projects such as seaport and airport to position Ghana as a regional logistics. It looks like our ports are getting solid backing now. And we see that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, and all have to do with this private public partnership. I mean, and that's the going forward. That at least and I'm sure Honorable talk about private involvement in seeking funds to develop this country. It's very, very crucial. But the overall whole idea is that government beyond it. That is what beyond what is the name?
Government, the country beyond aid, like going beyond aid.
That is the whole principle, that we become
self-reliant,
self-sufficient. But of course, we will also be seeking private funding, but to ensure that at least some of these infrastructures are built.
We'll touch a little bit on how we can improve activities around the ports there to ensure that the loopholes in the system are properly plugged. Right after the break, when we come back, you can also join the conversation via the messages that you will be sending in, and I'll share them with Commissioner as well as the rest of the world. We'll be right back.
Here's innovation from GOIL that takes you further. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect, and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and GOIL has innovated to stay ahead. Expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. GOIL. Good energy.
Dear valued client, the Ghana Trade Hub mobile app is now live to make it easy to track your consignment and know the estimated duty payable for both general goods and used vehicles. We are pleased to inform you that the Ghana Trade Hub mobile app is available for download on Google Play Store for Android users and the App Store for Apple users. This is the best opportunity for all importers and exporters to know the duty payable on every good under transaction. You can reach the team for inquiries and support by calling +233 242 435 663. Send an email to support@ghanastradinghub.com. To remain updated, kindly follow progress on the following platforms: www.facebook.com/Ghana Trade Hub, www.twitter.com/Ghana Trade Hub, and GHLinkedIn.com/in/Ghana Trade Hub. Importers and exporters can download the official Ghana single window mobile app, which allows you to track your consignment conveniently and also allows you to obtain your estimated duty for general goods and used vehicles. Please spread the message to everyone importing or exporting. The Ghana Trading Hub mobile app is now live. Download and never be cheated. This is powered by the Smart Ports project under the auspices of the Government of Ghana and the Ghana Revenue Authority. Smart Port, improving Ghana's ease of doing business.
Ghana ye yenya ya sase o my kesia ye kan ye hobom ye adwumaden ye be ye kese pa ye to a ye tietia ne da no ene ne ye de sisi suku adan ne ya sabia ade bi yi akwan am ye nya asetena pa ene ne papi eto obi te say withholding tax, income tax, excise tax stamp ene afoforo pi wo ho a ebia na wo mi sem bi safa de wo sawutia nkasa ho enu nti ne ye wo ho ma wo ne se ye beboa wo eto aketewa bia boa mesra wo boa ne pagya
Welcome back to the program. It's proudly brought to you by GOIL Company Limited, also Ghana Revenue Authority, Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority, Ghana Community Network Services, and West Blue Consulting. My guest is the former Commissioner of Customs. He's now the technical advisor to the President, to Government, to Finance Ministry, Mr. Isaac CRENTSIL. Mr. CRENTSIL, you left the port around when?
April 2019.
April 2019. Now, where you are sitting now, advising technically, what are some of the things that you can tell governments that, look, I thought this was going this way, but I think upon hindsight, let's go along this direction? Is there something that you can look back and say that, look, some of the policies we threw out there in the port needs revision?
Well, I left at the time this new port came on board.
You mean the new Terminal 3?
The new Terminal 3 came on board. Okay. And when we were leaving, we had this understanding that it was going to improve, by way of technology, improve compliance at that level. It was very difficult for people to sort of even take goods out of the port without payment of duties, and then also ensure that the scan system were working very well. So these are the understanding that I left the scene. But for now, I've not had any adverse statement from that end, whether it's working well or it's not working well. Yeah. But I believe that the challenge at the port is a holistic one. We have to look at it. And I believe that we had the first one about that. All stakeholders within the port industry had their first meeting somewhere in, I think, May 2017.
May 2017.
Yes, and I think maybe you have to call for another dialogue, that stakeholders engagement, for us to understand what is the real problem, that we are not able to synergize, come together to ensure that revenue are not leaking.
Do you think that there is a challenge at the port?
For now, I'm not privy. I'm yet to move into that.
But you said that the challenge.
It is because.
So there's a challenge. You are saying
there's a challenge because I still believe that some of these stakeholders are operating
in silos.
Yes, and I believe there should be a total integration. That once we start something, you move through the system by way of technology, where there is no human interference. But it seems still there are a little human interference here and there within the process.
And why so? Because from May 2017, you were in that conference room. I was there as well. We thought that we were going to start something like that. All of us are moving towards a certain direction.
No, it achieved. At least I could say that at least we have about 80 to 90% integration. But we don't have the total integration. We have the shipping lines, we have the port handlers, we have the freight forwarder. I believe that there should be a system, even the freight forwarder should be able to work within the system, but not moving from seat to seat, that they don't talk about seat, moving from one stakeholder to the other. Or he can sit in his or her office
and have everything done.
And have everything done. And then go to the field, do if it's examination, do it, and then move out.
But 2 years on, we still don't have that. Why?
2 years, that's why I said we still need to have, because it takes time. It takes time.
But if you don't work at it, you won't get there. I mean, it's taking quite a number of time already, over 2 years.
Yeah.
Who should move for us to come back again? Initially was the vice president.
Yeah.
Who should move?
So these are all part of the reforms that...
we didn't see that captured in the budget.
It's a high-level one. Don't talk about tax reforms. These are some of the things we are also going to look at it. Because we're talking about the whole tax system.
Yeah.
And these are some of the things that you have to address.
Let me say, we have a caller from Tema. Before I pick that caller, this one says... please, can I get the contact of, Madame Mr. JB Donko Marketing? And yes, definitely you will have that. He says, I have an inquiry. So, good evening, Iron Port. Please make it known to the former customs boss that we are in the 4th industrial revolution. Hence, they should maximize the use of technology in collecting taxes. Ghanaians are ready to pay taxes when it's convenient and attractive. This is coming from Romeo from Pong. Ask him, you agree? Ask him, when was the last time he paid his tax? We always pay toll, but our roads are extremely bad. This government has to work on our roads than rather building all sorts of railways, which is not needed now. Are you sure we don't need the railways? Okay, so let me go to Tema and pick that line, and then I'll come back to read a few. I'm sure you've noticed some of the... Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Okay, while we wait on that line, good evening, Mr. I am enjoying your program. Thanks to the commissioner, the former commissioner Isaac CRENTSIL, for digesting the issues well for us to understand. He's really an asset to the nation. This is coming from one William. Good evening. I believe that the tax collectors especially should be assigned to specific areas periodically, each collector with a specific number in a mobile device on which taxpayers enter their details and amount paid. By so doing, the tax collectors are unable to pilfer. There can as well be a general app through which the taxpayers can pay electronically by a strategic alliance with fintechs like the mobile money firms. This is coming from one Ezekiel Colley in Medina. Some of those comments that have come, the comment about the routes, I think I've said that already, and people say all of that all the time. What do you make of those?
Well, I agree with the first that we have to use technology to drive our revenue measures, and I agree with 100%. And these things have been mentioned in the budget. And these are the three ingredients Honorable Minister talk about. That is people, technology, and service. We are going to ensure that the people are reformed. I mean, we develop the people very well by way of education, building their capacity. Then also look at the technology by way of digitization. All these things, we are going to look at it. And then the service, we talk about client service relationship, customer friendly. These are the things going forward. GRA is going to ensure that it works to achieve that direction. Well, we talk about, I mean, railway is also a road network, but you see, with technology. So I see why if government is developing railway, it's part of the yes, because I'm sure if we have enough railway network, our roads
the pressure on them will be very low.
Yes.
Let me pick Becky from Accra. Hello, Becky. Hello. Okay, so we lost our line as well. Now, this one is coming from the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Good evening to this program, always very educative. Please tell my former commissioner that he's looking so handsome and he's making my day. Please let him know that the entire Guta is proud of him. This came from the Greater Accra Guta. Yes. So that's coming from Greater Accra Guta, the chairman, the secretary, Nana Poku, and the rest at Guta. And this one from Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, Pauline says, you are always bringing some of these good issues and we are learning from them. Thanks for this particular resource person you have. God bless you. Hello, good evening. Hello? Do we have a problem?
Yes.
Hello, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. My name is Ohima from Tema.
Okay.
Yes. And with regards to the reduction in the duties and then all the values or... Hello?
We can hear you, please.
Okay.
Have we lost the line? Okay.
To induce people to import more.
Sorry, I think we lost you along the line. If you can repeat quickly.
We couldn't achieve the result. So going forward, you see, most of the policies we introduce at the port, it seems to be based on like hearsay or sometimes panic. Okay, this thing is happening, so let's bring in this. Rather than basing it on empirical evidence. For example, when CTN was being introduced, there were a lot said about it. But up to now, can the commissioner say that CTN has come to reduce under invoicing?
Okay.
You see, so going forward, we should learn from this and introduce policies based on proper research.
Okay.
And number two, when we also pay the taxes, like you mentioned about the motorway. The motorway was made, I heard it by cement, but today we patch it with tar. Meanwhile, every day we pay toll. So most of our roads are bad, and there's nothing inducing us to pay the taxes. And when you look at also those in positions, government positions, you can see that they are not doing more than the ordinary Ghanaian. They are not working extra harder than the ordinary Ghanaian. Yet their salaries and their allowances are too much.
Okay.
And if all these are a drain on their pocket, and also when they introduce policies at the port, you know, whatever they say,
I think your point is well made, Ohima. We will have to end it here for the sake of time, because I notice a lot of people are also back on the line. Commissioner, a lot of policies being thrown on the port, and yet you continue to cry like the finance minister is crying at the second page of his delivery that we are still not getting a lot from international trade taxes. Is it that we don't get it right? We don't consult enough and ensure that once we drop one policy. So there are a lot of people who continue to ask that, but you people were bringing paperless. We thought that once you come with paperless, we won't hear anything again. But every time there is one thing. You brought CTN and the lady is complaining. Have we achieved anything out of CTN? What was it supposed to do? And did you have a holistic consultation to make sure that once you drop this, the public know that there's a big relief at the port?
But all these initiatives that we brought in serve particular purposes. I mean, the paperless program that came in was to address the inefficiency. I mean, and then we reduce corruption. So it is, and it is serving its purpose. Then we talk about CTN. They were challenged in terms of valuation. A lot of people were undervaluing their goods, fraudulent activities. CTN has addressed some of these challenges. It has addressed some of these things. People were doing undervaluation and CTN is able to address some of these things. But except that it doesn't come up. We don't.
You don't say.
You don't say.
But you should.
It's addressing some of these challenges.
You should.
So and then of course talk about what you mentioned.
No, before you move on to the next one, I have something on the CTN. But let me pick Albert from Tema. Hello, Albert.
Yes. Thank you for receiving me. I want you to ask the minister from I want you to ask the host for me. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, now I want you to ask the host man that you have in your telly that, for example, he's talking about pay the tax before they can do the road. But I'm a Chandra. I've paid tax for a very good 3 years, and now since this government come, ship is not coming. I'm not getting work to pay my tax. So how can I pay the tax when there's no work for me?
Okay, point well made. He doesn't have work hard as he pays taxes. So that before you take that and you take the CTN, this is one as well. Good evening, Sami. What did the former commissioner do concerning National Risk Management Committee as directed by Act 9233 Clause 3. That's coming from Kofi Ejapong in Kumasi. This one says, good evening, and we're grateful for the good work Mr. Isaac CRENTSIL has done all this while and continue to do for this country. We pray that as he occupies his present position as a technical advisor to the President of Finance Ministry, we will feel much more impact in the fiscal policies of this country. Michael Agbleza. We have somebody from where, Ugwa? Emmanuel. Hello, Emmanuel.
Good evening.
Nungwa, yes, go ahead.
Please, I want to find out, when are they doing the auction at the port?
What are they doing, what?
The auction, when the auction of cars.
Auction of cars, okay. And then this one says, good evening, Sami. Keep doing this great discourse. Thanks to the humble, handsome former commissioner of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority for his education. This is coming from William Azaglo. He says it's ROC. Okay. Commissioner, so you can continue before I get back to the reading. I'm
not saying that you should pay your tax before you do the road. It is the responsibility of government to develop the nation.
Yeah.
That's why I said that I'm building this premise that you must pay taxes for a civilized society.
Yeah.
And road is not only part of the civilized society. Yeah. Police, so many vehicles have come in, good hospitals are in, the drones, all these things are all part of the civilized society. Taxes are paying. The school feeding program, the free SSS, these are all part of the processes. And then, of course, government has also started the initiative of building our roads. But what we are saying that it is up to you to voluntarily pay your due taxes.
Okay, this one is...
It's not that you pay before government do. Government is already doing its work.
Okay, rudely though, let me cut you and pick Atebubu because he's calling from 5. I don't pick this one. He's been on for too long. Hello, Stephen.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, hello, Stephen.
Yeah.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, listen. I have lived in Ghana before I left for Europe.
Okay.
I export goods to the country since 10 years.
Okay.
And the experience I'm making at the port and here in Ghana is terrible.
What's the experience?
It's really terrible.
What's the experience?
And what I would say is the problem we have in Ghana is that every policy that's made is made that will favor the policy maker and not the people. And so long as we will continue to do that, the country will never prosper.
Okay. Thank you. So policies favoring the elite or government and not favoring the ordinary or the people.
In fact, I beg to differ with my last good person. I mean, the free HSS, I mean, it's a policy that is favoring the people. I mean, I'm a living testimony that this September I have to pay about 4 different people's not school fees, but
prospectus.
Prospectus.
Okay.
Even prospectus, I was struggling. And what about the school fees?
Okay.
So I mean, it's something that even that alone is enough to motivate every Ghanaian to take a start obligation. Okay. So this policy of free SSS is very, very important. And I'm sure government will not bring a policy to favor the government. Then why is he governing? He's governing because of the people. So why is he bringing policy to favor him? He's governing over who? He's governing the people. So he's bringing policy to favor the people. So many flagship programs are coming. I mean, leap, so many things that people are being paid, so many things. So I don't know.
I'll get back to the policies at the port again. But Richard, hello, Richard.
Hello.
Yes. Hello, Richard.
I'm here. Yeah,
yes, go ahead. And we also here. We can hear you.
Good evening to you and your wonderful guest.
Good evening.
Please, I want to find out from him that what is government doing about the tax reduction, the one he brought at the port, the 50% reduction. I think it's a fantastic idea. But when you go down to the market, it's not reflecting there. Okay. When you go to the market, things are now expensive than previously.
Okay.
Which shouldn't be the case.
Yeah. Okay.
So I want to find out from what government is doing. Because I think they should go down and find out.
Okay, thank you. I think that point is made, Stephen. So, Commissioner, that's another thing. Policies are brought in, 50% reduction in general goods, 30% in car, and people are having different perception out there. Outside there, people are not seeing the effect of all these policies. And so people can't even jubilate that you have reduced taxes.
I'm really surprised.
Are you?
That people are still hiking their products.
No, but you've been buying from town, from the market.
Yeah, I'm surprised that prices are still high. That's why the reduction.
And have you questioned it as a technical advisor?
When we started this policy, they told us that it was old stock.
Yeah.
And we are into the 9
months.
And
still low stock.
It's something that, but I think going forward, we have to engage the GUTES, the AGIs, and find out why prices are not reflecting in the market. It's not the best.
No, but
it
should have
this
been
one is a moral thing that the traders and then of course the importers might ask themselves.
No, but
this one government cannot force them.
No, you
but
can't.
It's a moral issue. Government cannot force you to sell this at this price.
No, 1 second.
But
We'll
at
come
least
back
government
to
has given you a reduction, and it must be reflected.
We'll come back to it. Let me pick a table again. Hello, the gentleman from our table. Yes.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes. Hello. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Can I speak? Hello.
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, listen. I import ambulance in the country, whereby the government cannot import such an ambulance, and I'm paying 41,000 shillings for one ambulance. So where is the reduction of the duties?
What was the original? Can I ask? What was the original price that you would have paid for that ambulance before the 30% reduction? Have you been able to check it?
No, I haven't. Where should I find this? There's no place to find something like that.
Yes, there is actually an application. We have been playing the advert on this program. There's an application, Ghana Trade Hub. You can calculate the duty that you are supposed to pay on every car that you import in this country, into this country. So in there, you can check how much you should have originally paid and how much you pay now after the 30%. So if somebody tells you that the 30% is not affecting your ambulance, please get back to that Trade Hub. Check it and you get the right value.
The situation, let him come in. The situation is, it is declared that ambulance is free.
Okay, is that so?
So now, just because some people at the port are doing bad work, we who are importing the ambulance to help the country, we are being punished.
I see. But what information were you given that your ambulance can be imported free without duty?
Yeah, the ambulance was free from 1 year ago or 2 years ago. The ambulance import of ambulance in the country was free.
Okay, hold on. Let me find out from former commissioner. Is that true that duty on ambulance?
It depends on the type of the car he's bringing. Sometimes somebody will bring a Toyota, he is like a van, but in the shape of an ambulance, and expecting that we should take it as an ambulance. I agree with you. Ambulance is somehow free, but
is it free? Is duty on it?
I
thought if it's meant for a certain charitable cause, and then, you, for instance, if it's meant for a particular hospital, then you're able to secure exemption from the Ministry of Health.
Ministry of Finance.
Yes, I thought that's what it's supposed to be.
Yes, but you see, unless I know the type of ambulance that you're talking about.
Because if you are bringing ambulance for your own personal commercial use to carry like the ones they used to carry dead bodies around.
Yes. Because sometimes they bring it and term it an ambulance, but in the end
they use it for commercial. If you can do some bit of travel and come down to the port or the customs office and find out a lot more about this particular peculiar issue that you have. Commissioner, you were talking on the policies that have been brought into the port environment, and let me read Samson Asaki. He sent a message for you. After that, I would love for you to answer whether in your time, because we saw a number of policies that were implemented, were thrown into the port during your time. Samson says, good evening to you and my friend who was a former customs boss. Please ask him why is customs charging frozen food importers state warehousing at the port when they have actually not gone under UCL? 2, what was the reason for his outfit directing that all duties should be paid at MPS before containers leaving, when they knew that reefer containers were not supposed to be handled by MPS? This is by Samson Asakia Wingobe, Executive Secretary of Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana.
This is a question for the administrators. I'm at the policy level now, so the administrators will have to be able to address. So Samson must take his concern to the current administration of customs.
Okay, you are not a technical advisor to the president. You deal with some top.
I will not know this policy until it comes to our level.
Okay. Sami, Mr. CRENTSIL says his level has changed, so I beg you, give him what is for his level. Do you think that you had too many policies in the port?
Not at all.
Okay, before then, let me take Ampa. Ampa, hello? From Aboko,
yes,
is it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead quickly, please. That should be my last call.
I am listening to the man over there, and he's talking about the free SHS and its impact.
No, that's not the subject of discussion.
I'm developing a point from what he said.
Okay, go ahead.
You see, government cannot always think that getting a revenue is only through taxes.
Okay.
There are other areas which government need to pay particular attention to. Okay. One of these areas could include the contract that government get into, particularly the oil sector.
Okay.
You cannot sit down for the foreign investors to come to your country, sign a contract with you, and the citizenry is disadvantaged. Another area what government should also look critical into is the mining sector.
Yeah.
You give a lot of tax exemption to these foreign companies, and at the end, the profit they take back to their country.
Okay.
And this man is an advisor to the government, and can't tell government that is not through only taxes that it can rake in revenue for the country. They should look at those areas. Taxes are too much and it's killing the economy.
Point well made. Okay, so that's on exemptions. I'm sure we'll talk about that if we get the chance briefly. Please, we are still waiting for Mr. CRENTSIL to update us on the CTN. This is coming from McLean Graphic. The CTN, what do you have? What has it done?
I'm sure
and you brought it.
Yes, and I left it. So
what has it done so far?
When McLean goes to the customs administration, they will be able to have information.
But what information do you have? Because where you said, I'm sure that you are getting the overall generic outcome of it.
But see, the truth of the matter is that the CTN has brought sanity into the valuation activities.
How?
At least because the moment you tamper with your invoices, the CTN is able to identify it. So it's something like a risk management tool to assist the custom officers to be able to know whether this person is risk averse or risk taker. So then they're able to manage and take decisions on your transaction. So it's a risk management tool that is helping us in managing the valuation system in the customs.
Because in July 2018, when you wanted to implement this, and I was with you back at the office there when you told me personally that you think that as soon as this kicks off, you're going to make a lot of money for country.
And we did.
Have you?
Oh, yes.
Can you give us volumes numbers?
Well, I can't speak it out of
Okay, there's another thing about, I don't understand why you were pushed by the clearing agents or the freight forwarders that let customs system worldwide integrate among themselves. Has that been done till date, more than a year after?
I don't understand the question.
You see, they said that the reason why they didn't want CTN to affect all other goods that were being imported into the country. And as at now, not all goods are being affected by CTN. Not all imports,
not all traders.
Not all traders.
Importers. Not all importers.
And that is because the smaller traders, the importers, the Guta and Co. kicked against it and said that because Customs Ghana is not connected to Customs China, nor Customs this country, they feel that you can't implement it effectively. So they were hoping that you do that connectivity first. Have you been able to do that? Or has customs done that?
It's not...
it's not that easy?
Yes. Because you have to have a memorandum of understanding. Even you have to have this partnership agreement. So it's not... but, of course, some of the MOUs have been signed with some of these countries.
Okay.
But not all those our trading...
MOUs have been signed?
With some of the countries. But those countries are not our major trading partners. And therefore, we cannot get much information. But we have a lot of this on the web that serve as a guidance, risk, and not as a something substantive to work on. Because we are talking about on real-time business, you have to take decision on real-time. Okay. And some of these that you are talking about is something that you have to look at it when the transaction has already expired or passed. Okay. So it's not, but it serves as a guidance or a risk for you to know that whether the document before you, the values are right or not.
Okay. Now, good evening. Please, can you ask the former commissioner that if he is aware that now not all general goods valued are given 50% FOB discount? I had this issue a few weeks ago, and I went to the head office to appeal on that and was declined. Reason given was that my goods doesn't merit the 50% FOB discount. You mean the benchmark value discount? Yes. Kofi Ejapong, that came from Frank. Sami, please. Okay, this I think I've read already. Unless, good evening, Sami, please. The ambulance is now free. It's 5% import duty, but it was previously free. This is coming from Frank. Yeah. Unless you apply for exemption from Ministry of Health. Yeah. This is the clarity that is coming. So ambulance is not free. It's 5% import duty, but previously used to be free. Okay. Ohima from Tema says, Ohima, I think, okay, this is quite long. I would like to find out why customs trained, long-serving, experienced officers have been sent to the Domestic Tax Revenue Department, that is DTRD, whilst their training is way different. What does the Commissioner General, for that matter, Ministry of Finance, seek to achieve? Isn't this causing financial loss to the state? Well, that's coming from Ohima in Tema. So we're going to pick some few news items within the port industry around the world, and when we come back, we'll be wrapping up with the technical advisor to the Ministry of Finance and a former Commissioner of Customs.
On the back of 2 piracy attacks on vessels in Gulf of Guinea last week, the International Transport Workers Federation called for urgent global and regional cooperation to fight piracy in the region. The latest incidents occurred in early November and involved the Norwegian-flagged MV Bonita and Greek-flagged Elka Aristotle. Pirates kidnapped 9 crew members from MV Bonita while the vessel was anchored off the coast of Benin in West Africa, and 2 days later, 4 crew members were taken hostage off the coast of Togo from Elka Aristotle. Several other abductions have been reported in the Gulf of Guinea in recent months, including 8 crew members taken hostage off Cameroon in August and 10 Turkish seafarers off the coast of Nigeria in July. Danish bunker company Monjasa has completed its first ship-to-ship supply of the very low sulfur fuel oil in Lomé, Togo. The STS operation was carried out by the company's tanker African Runner on October 21, 2019 and involved the supply of a total of 200 metric tons VLSFO. The company is currently enabling the IMO 2020 transition by making the new low-sulfur marine fuel available across the West African region. Danish shipping major Maersk delivered an improvement in its operating results despite a lower global container demand seen in the quarter ended September 30, 2019. While revenue decreased by 0.9% to $10.1 billion in the third quarter of 2019, profitability continued to improve, with earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization increasing by 14% to $1.7 billion, reflecting an improved EBITDA margin of 16.5%.
Okay, so still in the studio is the former Commissioner of Customs, Mr. Isaac CRENTSIL, and technical advisor now to the Finance Minister and the Finance Ministry. Mr. CRENTSIL,
yeah.
Do you think that the targets, revenue targets that government gave to the Ghana Revenue Authority is just too high or excessively ambitious?
For 2020?
And in the past and for 2020?
Yeah,
has it been overly ambitious?
I'm sure in the budget it's about 22% over the attendance.
The previous?
Of 20, yeah, 2020's target is about 22%. And it's something that we have done it before. And I believe the integrity of the new management of the GRA, the new Commissioner General, the new board chairman, the new commissioners. And I'm sure they are going to use all the necessary tools. And of course, with the backing of the tax officials. And I believe this year, 2020, inshallah, they will achieve the target for the first time.
But in your time, 2018, your target, you couldn't meet it.
Yeah, but there were growth and over last 2017. So, yes.
But then they increase it over 20%. Isn't that too much? At least hope that you even go around 10, 5, 15. Because when you increase like that, that's what brings out that moves to bring a lot of policies to make money. And
no, in fact, there are so many factors the technical people put in place in forecasting.
I see.
And once you are able to do maybe 20% growth over last year, I mean, and nothing stops you. Even if you maintain it, you're almost there. But 2019 was exceptionally a very challenging year. In fact, it was a very challenging year, and I believe that all these things have been identified and addressed in the 2020 budget. And going forward, looking at the people, they're going to address the people, they're going to use technology, and then of course the client service will also be improving. I mean, there will be synergy. I mean, bringing taxpayers and tax administrators together to ensure that why it's necessary that we should pay taxes, so that at least we achieve the target. I mean, the signs are that 2020 will be a good year in the revenue collection.
You mentioned that the conference that we had in 2017, May, that brought about the paperless from the Vice President. We should have another one.
I think so, so that we can review again the port activity.
Who do you think should call for this?
I'm sure maybe the ministry. We'll look
the finance ministry.
Yeah, maybe we'll look at it. No, maybe because it comprises other ministries that are not under the Ministry of Finance.
Yes, of course.
So maybe the
transport
management team must maybe look at it and see that what's the.
Would you propose for it immediately from finance?
Well, I'll mention it to my honorable minister, and then maybe going forward, because we have to look at why all these laudable ideas were brought in, but still there are few challenges at the port. Maybe you have to look at it again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isaac CRENTSIL.
We are giving me this opportunity, and I hope that
I can always hijack you.
Well, when
okay, and I have to say thank you to the minister, your man Ken, and then Kweku as well, Kweku Kwating, very cooperative almost all the time, as well as the Chief Director himself, and the entire ministry decided to bring you close and bring you to the general public to discuss some of these issues. We appreciate the opportunity. Eva at the Chief Director's office, that lady also likes your, she's very good and highly professional. Eva, thank you for all the support as well.
Thank you.
So regards to everybody at the Finance Ministry.
I will do.
See you next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you.